Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Round the Outside here on the Speed and Shoot podcast, brought to you by Adham and Ekin. Today we'll be giving our thoughts on the Bahrain Grand Prix last week. So we thought we'd just give our thoughts on the race in general. So I personally thought it was a pretty decent start to the Formula One World Championship. Some great action in the midfield as well as some good overtakes near the front. Not quite at the front. So what have you given the race as a rating out of 10?
Okay, so if we had to go out of 10, I have given it a 7. A 7 out of 10. I'll explain why, but what have you gone for?
I've also gone for a 7, so, we're matching in that department.
Right, yeah.
I think the reason, as I touched on, there was some great overtaking in the midfield, some great action, some great changes of position, as well as...
It was an entertaining race.
Yeah, it was definitely
However, Verstappen did win the race by about 20 seconds, didn't he? So,
yeah, I mean...
So
I would give the rating a bit higher, but when there's no competition for the actual win, then I think that limits the rating a little bit. But yeah, overall I would say I enjoyed the race. It was a good start to the season.
Yeah, loads of people were talking about how it's just going to be a repeat of last season, how nothing's changed. However, that's you can argue about that because of we're going to get onto it. But for example, Aston Martin, they got podium.
I think Aston Martin showed really strong pace in quali, and who knows, depending on if they, for example, started on the front row, they could have fought Max. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what a driver Alonso is. Great driver.
To just hop into a new team, bang, podium. For once, he actually made a good career move in going to a team that was up and coming.
Yeah, great driver he is.
Yeah, we'll get onto that later, but. So we've got to come up with these little categories just to rate the racing and the drivers and the teams. So we start off with our top 3 drivers. So who have you gone for?
Right, so I have gone for Verstappen, Alonso and Stroll. Who have you gone for?
I've gone for Verstappen, Alonso and Gasly.
Right.
So, Verstappen speaks for himself. We've both gone for him.
I can't say I'm the biggest Verstappen fan, but you can't say he's not a good driver. He's arguably the best driver on the grid now.
Yeah, and in the form of his life, and there was no competition.
Exactly.
He absolutely walked that race. Qualifying and the race as well. So yeah, obviously a great weekend from him. We've also both gone for Alonso. Yeah,
we've gone for Alonso, and I guess that also speaks for itself. To just hop in a new car, new team, and in practice, I think it was, he was locking up quite a lot, wasn't he?
Yeah, there was quite a lot of lockups just as he's testing out the brake biases and other things.
Yeah, so obviously we were thinking, it might be new Aston Martin, he's probably not going to perform well because it's a new car. Maybe a few races into the season he'll pick up his pace, but first race to grab 3rd place to sit on a podium was great from him.
I think after qualifying we sort of thought it was a bit of a reality check in that he didn't manage to out-qualify even the Ferraris, let alone the Red Bulls. But, a bit of Ferrari mess up and obviously Alonso's brilliance led to him being able to secure that podium.
Exactly. You've gone for... Gasly, yeah. Want to explain why?
Yeah, I think it's gone under the radar a bit because everyone was laughing at Alpine for a certain other driver that I'll be mentioning later. But, I think Gasly's drive was really underrated to go from P20 to points. So yeah, just we didn't see too much action on the telly, but just great performance, and he'll be very happy with his first race, despite Alpine maybe not being as happy.
Exactly, yeah. So the 3rd driver I've gone for, Lance Stroll. He finished 6th, started in 8th, gained 2 positions, obviously boosting Aston Martin's points as well. However, he just suffered from 2 broken wrists.
Yeah,
and he managed to get 6th.
I was a bit worried that it was potentially dangerous, him racing.
Yeah, of course.
While there was pain. But who are we to judge about?
But I guess he can do it. If he feels good, if the team's giving him the green light to actually sit in the car and drive,
then you've got to respect it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I had that bit of a hairy moment with Alonso at the start, but I'm sure he forgave him.
Yeah, Alonso. I guess after getting podium, there's no point arguing about something that happened at the beginning of the race.
I just did find it funny how throughout the race he was asking, who hit me, and
they
the
weren't
team just
telling
wouldn't
him.
tell him because obviously it was the other driver.
People are arguing that it was Alonso's fault, the way he cut in.
Because he turned in.
Yeah, the way he cut in. But
I think Stroll was a bit boxed in and he didn't have too much choice.
I mean, it's a weird one that because, yeah, like I said, Alonso cut in. People say he cut in too aggressively, but that is just, I guess he was probably just trying to do a defensive move.
Yeah.
And just carry on with his race. That's where he got obviously bumped by his teammate.
I don't want to use the FIA's terms here, but it's a racing incident. That's motor racing, apparently, Toto. So.
That is motor racing, Toto, yeah. As we heard in Abu Dhabi last season.
Season before.
Sorry, not last season.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit off.
So our next category is 3 disappointing drivers.
Yeah,
could have had a better weekend.
I mean, we were supposed to pick 3. I've selected 1. Quite obvious. I've just picked Esteban Ocon. I mean that was we need to talk about. We have to talk about him. So Esteban Ocon. I mean, he got a 5-second penalty for not starting on the grid properly.
He wasn't.
He wasn't parked properly. And then when he went in to serve that 5-second penalty, a mechanic got into contact with his car 0.4 seconds before the 5-second penalty was served.
Yep, so he got a 10-second penalty for not serving his 5-second penalty correctly. I do think that's a bit harsh.
Yeah, I mean, well, then when he came to serving his 10-second penalty, was it when he was serving his 10-second penalty? On the way out?
I think, that's right.
On the way out, he was 0.1 kilometers per hour faster than the pit limit in the pit lane.
Oh dear. Yeah, he won't have been very happy.
Which obviously caused him to retire, but I remember in the race you were asking why didn't they retire earlier?
I was like, you're back at the grid, you're like a whole lap
He was 30 seconds behind the last person, which was Norris, I think, was it?
I can't remember.
I can't remember at the time, but yeah, he was 30 seconds behind.
But yeah, especially that'll annoy Ocon a lot, especially because he would have wanted to get one over on Gasly in the first race, but instead Gasly had one of the most impressive drives and Ocon had a whimper. But I've also gone for Hülkenberg, which will probably be a bit unpopular. I know lots of people want him to do well, but he started in the points and then ended up finishing below Magnussen. So I don't know all the details in terms of how he ended up there, but surely something had to go wrong on his end. It just won't be the return to Formula 1 that he would have wanted. And I think it was a bit disappointing. But I've also gone for Russell.
I mean, just quickly, these drivers, obviously, we have a whole season ahead of us. It's not like we're mid-season or close to the end and we're saying, they're this, that. But like you said, because it's the first race of the season, drivers would want to start, show what they're meaning to perform like for the rest of the season. So obviously it would be disappointing if, for example, Ocon had to retire after all them penalties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously Gasly will feel pretty good about himself, I think, but Ocon, I've also gone for Russell, though, because although that Mercedes seemed like it was quite difficult to drive, I think Hamilton sort of got the maximum out of it by finishing in the top 5. But Russell sort of wasn't able to wrestle it into higher positions and ended up finishing behind Stroll, whereas Hamilton was fighting with Alonso and ended up... He nearly got Sainz in the end as well.
Yeah, nearly.
I would say that Russell was definitely the worst off those two. But that's sort of it for the disappointing drivers. I think overall a lot of drivers will be happy with their weekend, even those who didn't finish in the points.
Yeah.
So next, where is it?
So that brings us on to the 2 best performing teams. I have gone for Red Bull and Aston Martin here.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you have as well.
Yeah, no shock that I've gone for the same. Obviously Red Bull dominated the weekend. Aston Martin.
I mean a 1-2 finish from Red Bull and a 1-2 start from Red Bull as well.
Yeah.
You can't really argue with them.
Who knows what Leclerc could have done? I don't know whether he was going to fight.
That's unfortunate that's very unfortunate for Leclerc. The fact that his I remember we were making jokes about it before the race, saying
it actually happened.
Saying Ferrari car something's bound to happen, and he just lost power.
Mm-hmm.
About that though, if he stopped on a very very good part of the track, which caused him to bring out a virtual safety car
instead of the full one.
However, if he was to stop maybe on the other side of the track, he would have really helped his teammate out by bringing in a real safety car, and that might have also helped Ocon, for example, get rid of his 30-second gap from the bottom.
But, it wasn't to be.
Nah.
It would have made for an interesting end to the race, to be fair.
To be honest, in that position, obviously started losing power. You do have to put safety over like what he wants to do, but over strategy. For example, he can't move. Quickest way was to go off where he went off, and it was a safe place to stop. He doesn't want to stop in the middle of the track. For other drivers, it's dangerous as well.
Exactly. But in terms of more detail on the two best teams, obviously Red Bull, as we said, dominated the weekend. The win never really looked in doubt, and Aston Martin had a really strong race. Qualifying was a little underwhelming compared to what people were expecting.
Yeah.
But obviously, both cars still got into Q3, which is what Alonso said was the target. And then obviously the podium and a great performance from both drivers. I also wanted to give a shout out to Williams. They got Alex Albon in the points and Logan Sargent, I thought, had a really strong first race to finish 12th. So yeah, just outside the points. And I think that shows that Williams can have a lot of hope that they might be able to fight in that midfield battles. So yeah, I think they'll be happy with the weekend as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can see loads of people's predictions most likely putting Williams a lot lower than how they actually performed. If we have a look here, for example, Sargent's first race in Formula One, for him to finish P12 in, especially like we were saying, a Williams car, is quite impressive.
Ahead of the likes of Magnussen, ahead of the likes of Hulkenberg, both McLarens. It's he'll definitely be happy with that, and I hope for his sake, and for all the American fans, that he'll able to carry on that form.
Yeah, that's another thing. Now American fans sort of have someone to cheer on the grid as well.
Yeah, and I think it's nice for them because there's a lot's been said about the 3 races in the USA and how that's.
I personally don't see a problem with 3 races in the USA. Do you?
Think a lot of people are saying that those spots in the calendar should be filled by other circuits that aren't there. But I think the 3 different circuits in the USA are all different.
Yeah, I mean we spoke about it on our last episode. Check it out, by the way, if you haven't.
Yes, please check it out.
But we were talking about how we're quite excited for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, which is going to be a street circuit, if I'm not mistaken.
It's just
on the Las Vegas
a step
Strip.
into the unknown. Like, we don't know what it's going to be like. Could the racing be good? There's something I wanted to mention. We were planning to do another podcast before this one, but we got a bit caught up. They've removed the chicane at the end of
the Spanish Grand Prix
lap on the Spanish Grand Prix,
which is going to make it faster.
I just thought I really wanted to mention that because it makes me really happy, because I thought that was a race murderer, but now it should really be a lot easier to overtake on that track. So yeah, potential for a lot of good racing.
Yeah, we're going to see faster racing as well now. Like you said, potential for overtaking.
That chicane was just such a race killer because it was really hard for the car behind to get a good exit, and that meant that all the way down that straight they wouldn't have been able to maximise their chance. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. But on to the 2 worst teams from the weekend. Who have you gone for? Okay,
so I've gone for McLaren and Ferrari. Who have you gone for?
Yeah, same.
Right, I mean, McLaren, first of all, I felt bad for Oscar Piastri, his first race as a McLaren driver. He was probably hoping to, show off what he can do. But obviously he had an electrical fault, I think it was.
Yeah, unfortunately his race was cut short.
Yeah, he came in to change they were changing the steering wheel, I think, and it just didn't end up working, so they retired there in the pits. Other than that, their other driver, Lando Norris.
2 laps down.
2 laps down, and he finished 17th, but last, because the other 3 drivers all got DNF'd, which, I mean, we've got to talk about that as well. 3 DNFs in this race. I guess it was entertaining for the neutral to watch.
We ended up getting a pretty interesting Bahrain. Sometimes you get more DNFs than that. There was no safety car. But yeah, I suppose McLaren might be the most disappointing team. I mean, Norris will not be happy with that at all.
Nope.
And I saw a funny meme that said McLaren is the new Williams.
I mean,
they're now the worst team on the grid. But hopefully for all their fans that it's not as bad as it looks.
Yeah, no. I mean, like I said, we're gonna have to watch the season sort of play out and then see what happens there from those races. Right, and then also we've gone for Ferrari now. Ferrari, obviously they had that engine failure with Leclerc, which obviously I felt bad because I thought he was going to get podium.
Yeah, Leclerc did look on for a podium, and then Ferrari equals Ferrari. Bonotto sat at home in an armchair laughing at the management team.
I mean, we need to talk about this. So you mentioned this, which was very correct. So Ferrari, the whole season, they're allowed 2 energy store changes, right?
Well, it's not just Ferrari, it's all the teams.
Yeah. They're allowed it all. But the reason I'm highlighting Ferrari is because in the first race in Bahrain, they've already used one of them.
Yeah, exactly. They've already swapped out the energy store, which means that's the last one they're legally allowed to use for the rest of the season.
Yeah, so obviously you're predicting that somewhere in the season they're going to need to take a few penalties for
Not
changing
just
engine.
one. I'm predicting at least 4 or 5 races they'll be taking engine penalties.
I mean, first race for them to change an energy store is,
It's just
it's
the
crazy.
worst. It's the worst possible start. I mean, Sainz would have got that podium as well, but unfortunately for him, I mean, it was a great race for
Yeah,
Alonso, but unfortunately for him, he was overtaken by his fellow Spaniard. But yeah, just not a great weekend for Ferrari, and their fans will be really disappointed with that, especially given how Bahrain started last season with the 1-2. It's just, yeah, definitely a decline, unfortunately, for them.
exactly. We're excited to see how Ferrari perform in the other races, especially Monaco. I cannot wait for Monaco to see if the
You really want to
see if
what
the
happened
Monaco
with Leclerc
national
and Monaco.
national Leclerc can break that Monaco curse and win it.
Ooh, I forgot to mention with Red Bull's dominance that qualifying was actually a lot closer than we thought. Q2 especially, that was a really exciting session. And that sort of gave us hope that we could get a pretty jumbled up Q3, but unfortunately business resumed as normal. But I do think there's a lot of potential to have more interesting qualifying sessions moving forward. So yeah, I thought that was something that was worth mentioning.
I mean, we're gonna make another episode on the Jeddah Grand Prix coming up next weekend, which I'm really excited for. That's when qualifying there's gonna show us if anything's changed, if anything.
Yeah, I think Jeddah is a really exciting race. It's definitely one of the most dangerous, which is perhaps not as good, but it's really exciting.
I mean, for the neutral, it's quite entertaining to watch as well. I mean, like you said, with street circuits, there are always, close walls. There's, I mean, even in Baku, that one turn up by the castle, that's very narrow, isn't it? So
yeah, that's a fun one. I think Jeddah, though, it's the fast blind corners that make people a bit worried.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the best drivers in the world here, so
Exactly.
You'd hope that they'd be able to navigate it safely. And apart from Mick Schumacher, last season when he split the car in half. But the 2 races that it's produced so far have been great. So yeah, looking forward to that one. But on to our last category, which is overtake of the race, and I think we're agreeing again.
I mean,
one.
all these categories, we've kind of almost gone for the same stuff for all of them, but you can't really blame us. I mean,
the
race,
a lot of them are non-negotiable, really.
Exactly. So overtake of the race, we've both gone for Alonso on Hamilton, and I don't know about you, but the main reason I picked this is because obviously they were fighting quite a lot. They were, overtaking each other back and forth. I remember Hamilton left that gap open, and for Alonso to do an overtake on turn 10.
Yeah,
now
turn 10, which is you wouldn't expect that from it.
Exactly, and it was around the inside, wasn't it? Inside of turn 10.
Yeah, down the inside, and I think Hamilton was a bit naive because although he's gone to the outside to try and
defensively cut in. Yeah.
Well, it's almost like he's trying to preserve the exit onto the next straight. But, you can't really be naive like that when you're fighting Alonso. So Alonso said thank you very much for leaving the inside open, and he's just gone through and, made the overtake stick. It's a fantastic
and he had DRS active, didn't he?
Yeah, just Hamilton was just ahead at the section point.
Yeah, so just after that overtake, he activated his DRS. Yeah,
so I think
and just went through there.
Hamilton could have done better by not leaving the inside wide open, but at the same time, he was trying to not compromise his exit, so obviously I can't blame him too much.
I mean, you got to think, even if, let's say, he didn't overtake on turn 10, if he was right behind him, just after turn 10, when that DRS zone was there, you thought, Alonso probably would have got him there, wouldn't he?
I think the overtake was coming anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, even if he didn't manage to do it there, the next lap on the straight, it would have been done. But yeah, just the nature of it and how Hamilton wasn't expecting it to be done there at all. I think that's why I've given it overtake of the race.
Exactly.
So, short podcast today, but that's our thoughts on the Bahrain Grand Prix. Hope you all enjoyed it.
Short podcast, however, the Jeddah predictions and thoughts is going to come out quite soon anyway, so
yeah, exactly.
We've got nothing to worry about there.
Yeah. Obviously, the pre-season one, there was a lot of pre-season excitement and thoughts to talk about. So.
Oh, yeah, we had a lot to talk about in the pre-season, because that was, I guess, regarding the whole season, wasn't it? This one sort of regarding the races.
With this one, we're keeping it short and sweet. Hopefully you enjoyed that podcast, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one.